100 grams of dark chocolate. I'm using 72% chocolate today. This is equal to exactly 14 ounces by weight. 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. This is 300 milliliters or 375 grams by weight. It is also equal to 10 fluid ounces. 56 grams of salted butter, and this is equal to 2 ounces by weight. So those are the ingredients, so let's get started. For our first step, we're going to create a little water bath, also called a bain-marie. We have a little bit of water in a pot, and we're going to gently heat that on our little stove element. So I'll get that on there. Place our bowl on top. I'm going to grab all of our chocolate and get that right in there. I'll get our butter in as well. And then all of our sweetened condensed milk. So right in there. So what's going to happen here is that double boiler is going to gently heat all of these ingredients. It's going to just nicely melt that chocolate without burning it, and we're going to let all of this completely melt. This is a really simple fudge. Okay, that's perfect. So at this point, I just want everything to start melting. So I'm going to let this go a couple of minutes, and then I'll come back before it's fully melted just to show you what it looks like. In case you're wondering, I am using Eagle brand sweetened condensed milk in this recipe. So this is about 5 minutes later, and you can see that it's slowly melting down. I'll just get my little spatula in here, and you can see it's melting really nicely. I just want a slow, gentle heat to melt all of this down. You can see probably another 5 minutes and we're going to be done. So I'm going to let this go a little while longer and then I'll come back. So this is not even 5 minutes later. I just wanted to make sure everything was completely melted, and you can see how nice this mixture is. And at this point, if you want to add in any kind of nuts, walnuts are a really good choice. You would add them at this point. So look at this. Really nice. So now we are ready to pour all of this into our little pan. So I'll get that set up and I'll be back in 1 second. What I have here is an 8-inch by 8-inch square pan, and I have just lined it with a little piece of parchment paper, and then I have my little metal clips on here just to hold the paper in place while I pour the fudge in. So I'll grab all of our really nice fudge and get that right in there. Oh, it smells really good. Perfect. And then I just want to get all of this spread out. And if you want, you can sprinkle a few walnuts on the top. That would be nice as well. You just want to get it nice and even. I think that looks good. And now I'm going to pop this into my fridge until it is completely chilled. So this is about an hour and a half later. My fudge has completely cooled down. So let's unmold it. I'll just remove my little clips. I'm going to grab a little spatula. I just want to have a clean break. So just get all the way around. Push all the way to the bottom. That's good. I'll just try to pull this out. And there we have it. Oh, this looks good. I can't wait to cut into this. Oh, this looks good. Let me just zoom in. So I've just zoomed in. Just to show you this a little closer up, let's get a little piece here for our plate. And I've zoomed in one more time. I really wanted to get really close to show you this. Look at this. Dark chocolate fudge. Super, super simple. And check this out. Amazing. That just melts in your mouth. So, so good. So that's it for another really fast video. Just shows you how easy fudge can be at home. I hope you try this recipe. If you enjoyed my video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you wish. I really do appreciate that. That's it, and I'll see you next time. Gotta go in for another little piece here. This is so rich. That is good. So let's get on with the ingredients. 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of regular white sugar, 1.5 cups of fresh blueberries, 1/3 of a cup of vegetable oil, 1 egg, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/3 of a cup of regular milk. So those are the ingredients for the actual muffin. So now let me show you the ingredients for the cinnamon sugar crumb topping. There we go. I've got 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/4 cup of very finely cubed butter, and I'm using salted butter, 1/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and 1/2 cup of sugar. So those are the ingredients for the topping. So let's get on and make our muffins. All right, so our first step, I'm gonna get all of our vegetable oil into our little bowl, and then I'm gonna get my egg in there. We'll get that going. You could have put the sugar in first. It doesn't really matter in this case. So I'll just get that going. And then we'll grab all of the sugar and get that in there as well. We'll just get all of that combined. I have my oven set to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, there we go. That's nice. And then I'll get all of our milk in there as well. Just get that mixed in. A little bit of our salt. It's a little bit of salt, but I added all of the salt. That's what I meant. Okay, there we go. Okay, and now for our flour. So I'm going to grab a sieve. You don't have to use a sieve, but I'm going to take all of our flour and our baking powder and just get that in there. And we'll just give it a nice little shake. Shake, rattle, and roll. Just like that. You can just push it through. There we go. And just start mixing this in. I'm just on speed number 1. I don't want to overmix this at this point. Okay, that's good. Just like that. Perfect. Just clean off my beaters. There we go. And now we're going to fold in our beautiful fresh blueberries. All right, I'll just move this a little bit over. Or how about like that? That's better, right? I could hear you saying, yeah, turn it like that. It looks better. Perfect. And there we have 1.5 cups of beautiful blueberries right into there. And I'm just going to grab my spatula. I'll just mix them in. Now, I've got my little pan ready to go. There we go. I'll grab my nice ice cream scoop and we'll fill some of these up. Just try to get some good blueberries in each one. Now, I used a lot of blueberries. If you only want to use 1 cup of blueberries, you can. I like these really super full of blueberry flavor. So I used a little bit more, you know, a cup and a half. There we go. So I'll just whip through these and I'll be back in 1 second. There we go. Okay, we'll take that one out. We don't need it. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 beautiful sized, ready to go. So now we're going to do our very quick little crumble topping. So I'm going to start getting my stuff ready for that. I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so let's make our really nice topping. I'm going to put in all of my sugar. We've got our nice cinnamon there. There we go. Our flour. The first thing I want to do is I just want to mix that well. So I've got a little spatula here. I'm just going to mix this up. Spatula, a whisk. I've got my whisk here. And I'll just whisk that up. There we go. Have no clue why I called this a spatula, but anyway, it's a whisk. There we go. And then all of our finely cubed butter. And I'll just get that in there. I'm going to switch over to a fork and just get that mixed in. And then I want to break the butter down a little bit more. Alright, got my little pastry cutter. Now you could do this with 2 knives. I'll show you the motion. So if you don't have a little pastry cutter like this, which is basically a whole pile of knives working together in unison, you can take 2 knives, get them in there like that, and just start cutting like this. Just back and forth over the fat, which in this case is the butter, and just keep going like this. And you can, you know, go this way and this way until you've really cut down the butter into nice little size pieces. Okay, but for today I'm going to be using this. And also, to simplify this process, what you could have done is just put this into a food processor, and in 1 second it would have been done. But you can see already that the butter's breaking down. And there we go. Okay. There we go, we're on camera. And then we're just going to take some of this and just sprinkle it onto each one. And as you can see, there's enough here to make 2 batches of these. I'm making another batch like this with cranberries. But for this recipe, I'll just be showing the blueberries. There we go. Make sure you have enough on there. You don't want to overdo it, because we do want to highlight the blueberries in this recipe. So you can see that if you're just going to do the one recipe for the blueberries, you can take this recipe and really cut it down in half. This here though, this will store, so if you want to make, you know, another batch of muffins next week, you can just keep this in the fridge. There we go. So I do have my oven, 400 degrees Fahrenheit. There we go, that's pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to pop these into my 400 degree Fahrenheit oven. I'll be back later and I will tell you exactly how long I baked them. Alright, so here are my super blueberry muffins. They were in the oven for a total of 30 minutes and they smell awesome. Awesome, awesome. So we have a total of 10 here. So that recipe does 10. And I'll just break into one. They're quite warm still. But look at that. And what's great about these is that they're just full of blueberries. Oh, that smells so good. And I'll just break into it because I know you want to see what it looks like inside, but check this out. Look at this. It's actually still very warm. Oh, that there, that's blueberry just bursting. Bursting with blueberry aroma. It's amazing. There we go. And look at that. That's just bursting with blueberry aroma. Oh, I'm gonna have to just try this. That there, really good. So I hope you try this recipe. It is really, really good. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Oh, that is really good. Yum. Two cups of granulated sugar, 2 cups of whipping cream, this is 35% cream, 1 cup of corn syrup, a half a cup of unsalted butter, a half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And an optional last ingredient, we're going to be using some fleur de sel on the top of our beautiful soft caramels. So those are the ingredients, so let's get started. Into a large pot, I'm going to take my cream and get that right into there. And I want to have about a medium heat going. Okay, that's good. To our heavy cream, I'm going to add in our granulated sugar. I'm going to grab a wooden spoon, and I just want to get all of this combined together here. I've got my salt. I'm going to get that in as well. And then our corn syrup. And the corn syrup really helps in really reducing the amount of crystallization that happens when you're making candy sometimes. If you happen to over stir or get any little crystals, this will always help if you get a little bit of corn syrup into your recipe. Many recipes do call for this, and it is a good way to go. And now I'll just get all of that nicely stirred in. That is a beautiful mixture at this point. What we want to do now, we want to impart some heat into our mixture and get this going and get it, starting to turn into our beautiful caramel. You can see right now, just with the stirring, you can see how nice this is becoming. So at this point, we want to get this up to a boil. And I want to boil this for about 5 minutes. And that's going to really start bringing out the flavor in the caramel. So right now I can feel that there are still a few crystals in there. So it's okay to stir a little bit quicker at this point. But as soon as you start feeling the mixture is getting a little bit thinner, that means there's a lot more heat getting into the actual mixture, and at that point you don't really want to stir anymore. So at this point I just want to continue stirring until I see the mixture start to bubble. Once it starts bubbling, the actual bubbling in the mixture will prevent it from burning on the bottom. But at this point it's not boiling yet, so I'm just going to keep going at this. You can also increase your heat a little bit to get a little bit more heat into your pot. But once you see it start boiling, then drop your heat to a medium again. So this has just started to come up to a boil, and now I'm just going to drop this down to medium again. And you want to let this go for about 5 minutes at this point. We just want to start getting all of those flavors starting to come together. We really want to have a really beautiful caramel flavor going on. So let this go for about 5 minutes. You can put a timer on at this point. So this is 5 minutes later, and I'm going to turn down my element now, and I can actually smell that caramel really being developed. It smells so good. And at this point, we're going to start adding in our butter. So I'm going to slowly start popping this in. And you can see why I'm using a large pot, because it really helps keep all of that stuff down at the bottom. So try and use a pot with high sides. And now I'm just going to gently stir all of that fat, that beautiful butter, into our caramel mixture. So once all of our butter has completely dissolved. What I'm going to do now is I've got a candy thermometer here, and I'm going to get this in. I want to bring this up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a firm ball stage. So soft ball is 240 degrees, firm ball is 250 degrees. You don't need to have a lot of heat in here. My temperature now, I've got it down at low, and I'm just going to let this slowly go until it hits 250 degrees. At that point, the caramel is done. We're going to take it off the heat, we're going to add in our vanilla, and then we're going to pour it into our pan. So it's very, very simple. So at this point, I'm just going to let this go. This is going to take about 20 minutes, and when it hits 250 degrees, I'll be back. Okay, and I'm looking at my candy thermometer, and I have now 250 degrees. So I'm going to turn my heat off, and we are ready to add in our last ingredient, which is our vanilla. So I'm just going to get this out. So at this point, turn your heat off. That's good. Got my vanilla here, and I'm just going to add that in and just gently stir that in. You will get a little bit of bubbling. This is why it's nice to have a high pot when you're doing caramel. And just mix that in nicely. And that is ready to go. So this is a really nice pot. The handles are actually just warm, so I can actually lift it. I'm going to get my little hot plate out of the way. And here I have a 9x9 tray. This is lined with parchment paper, and I have my little clips. These are just little clips for binders and papers that I got over at Staples. So those are really, really handy in the kitchen. And now we're just going to take our beautiful caramel and just pour that right in here. Hopefully you can see that. And get all of that goodness right into your pan. Okay, and that's good. Oh, that looks great. Now at this point, this is extremely hot, and we cannot add our fleur de sel in at this moment. So I'm going to let this cool probably for about 20 minutes before we do so. So I'm going to let that continue cooling, and then I'll be back. So this is about 15 minutes later. I have my fleur de sel, and I'm just going to open that up. This is some beautiful salt, and I'm just going to take that and just get this all over the top. Just like that. You don't have to put a ton, as much as you want. And that looks good just like that. Alright, so this is about an hour later. I'm going to remove my little pins, my little clips. And with the magic of this parchment paper, you can just lift this whole thing right out. And look at that, clean as a whistle. Just a little rinse with some soap and water and you're done. Let's bring this out. And look at that. That looks amazing. Oh, that is so good. I just had to try the piece. You can either cut it up like this, or you can take the back of your knife and just break it into little pieces. This here, it's firm right now, but as soon as you put it in your mouth, it just gets really nice and chewy. It's really, really good. So just break it up, and then you can store this in an airtight container. That is really yummy. So there we have it. My beautiful homemade caramels. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you try this out. You're going to really, really love this. It is so good. I just can't explain how good this is. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Need 1 cup of all-purpose flour, a half a cup of butter, and I'm using unsalted butter in this recipe, 1 cup of chocolate chips, a half a cup of brown sugar, 1 egg, a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. A recipe note, if you are using salted butter, simply omit the salt. So those are the ingredients, so let's get started. For our first step, we're going to get all of our butter into a large bowl. Okay, that's good. To that, we're going to add in our granulated sugar and our brown sugar. And I'll just grab a fork and just break this up. So just break this up so that your mixer can get all of this mixed together much more easily. I'll grab my mixer and we'll just start creaming this together. And my butter is very warm. It's at room temperature. Once you have that mixed together, you can get your egg in there. That will add a lot of moisture to this and will really help with the creaming process. So this just helps break everything down in our mixture here. Okay, so now we are ready to add in a few more ingredients. I've got my vanilla and my salt. I'll just mix that in. Okay, that's good. And then we have our flour and baking soda. So I'm going to sift my ingredients in. So there's my flour and our little bit of baking soda. And we'll just get all of that in there. And then I'll just take my fingers and just push the rest through. Perfect. And then we'll mix this in. And I don't want to overmix this, I just want to get this just until it's combined. And I am on speed number 1. I don't want to have a dust cloud because of that flour. And you can take your mixer and just slightly go up on the sides of the bowl to incorporate any of the flour that's still up on the top. So a little bit on the bottom and you can bring right up like that. Okay, that's perfect. And our last ingredient are beautiful chocolate chips, and I'm using semi-sweet chocolate chips in this recipe. We'll get all of those in, and we will just mix those very quickly just to get them combined. Okay, and that's perfect. And now we are ready to get these onto our tray. So I've cleaned up. I have a tray here lined with a little silicone liner. You can either use parchment paper or you can go directly onto your baking sheet, but this is how I'm going to do it today. I've got a cookie scoop here, and we'll just get some of these onto our baking tray. So this is a medium-sized scoop I'm using. You can also use 2 big spoons if you wish. I guess I'll go 3 here. So I'll whip through these and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so there's my first sheet. I'm going to pop these into my 350-degree oven for about 10 minutes. So I'll do that and I'll come back when I've done all of them. I'm going to get quite a few here, so I'm going to bake them all off and then I'll show you everything when I come back. Alright, I am back and I have baked all of my cookies. This batch made a total of 23 cookies. These ones here I did for 12 minutes. You can see that they're quite a bit more brown. And these ones here I did for 10 minutes. Now these here are still a little bit warm here. These ones here are cool. These are cool as well. So I'll just take one of these and I'll just show you that even though these were at 12, you can see that they're really nice and moist still. Look at this. You can actually see, oh, looks so good. Really good. I'll have to try one. Oh, that's really good. So if you want them really chewy, do them at 10 minutes. They're going to turn out like this. If you want them chewy, a little bit of a crunch on the edge, then do them for 12 minutes like that. A really simple recipe. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. dairy-free wacky cake. In that recipe, I was using baking soda and vinegar. However, I had a lot of comments asking me if they could switch over to baking powder. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use baking powder instead, which will also eliminate the use of vinegar in the recipe. So once again, we'll go through the ingredients. 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 cup of cold water, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, 6 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and our last ingredient, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So those are the ingredients, so let's get started. In my other wacky cake video, I showed you the traditional method that was used many years ago, where we took all of the dry ingredients, put them into the bowl, mixed them around, and then we made 3 wells or 3 holes, and then we put individual liquid ingredients in those holes. Today I'm going to show you a much easier way to do it. So I'm going to start off with my all-purpose flour. We'll get that right in there. Our cocoa powder. Our baking powder. And you can sift the little bit of salt if you wish as well. And our sugar. You don't have to sift the sugar, but you can. Grab the back of a spoon and just get all of that through. Perfect. I'm going to grab a simple whisk and just get all of this combined. So you want to do this before you add your wet ingredients. Just makes it a lot easier. So in this recipe, I've eliminated the use of the vinegar because now we're using baking powder instead of baking soda. That's good. I'm going to get in all of our cold water, and this is just water from my tap. I'll start mixing that in. All of my oil. That's vegetable oil. You can also use canola if you wish. And our vanilla. And then just mix this up until it's well combined. Oh, that smells really, really good. So this is completely dairy-free. No milk, no butter, no eggs. Once you think it is well combined, we are ready to pour this into our baking pan. I have an 8-inch by 8-inch square pan lined with parchment paper. In some countries, this is called baking paper. We're just going to grab all of our batter now and get that right in there. And my oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. That's good. And now I'm going to pop this into my oven for 30 minutes. Alright, this just came out of the oven, extremely hot right now. I'll remove my little metal clips a little later on after it's cooled, but here we have it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just tilt this up to show you the nice rise on the cake. Let's go this way. You can see. Really nice. So at this point, I'm going to let this completely cool and then I'll come back. So this is about 2 hours later. My cake has completely cooled now. So we'll just unmold it. Look at how easy it is with this parchment paper. I can just lift it right out. And that is a really, really nice cake. So I'm going to set up my cutting board and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, grab a knife. I'm using a serrated knife. This makes a nice cut. It's like a saw. I'll just cut right through it. And look at that. Really nice and moist. Very good. I'll cut a little bit out more. We'll do the same thing that we did in the other video. We'll use some powdered sugar on the top. I'll grab a plate. Get a nice piece. And I know you want to see if this is what I call bouncy. Look at this. Really, really nice. Look at that. Really nice inside. So once again, our cake, I've got a little bit of powdered sugar here. And we'll just take it and just get it right on the top. And there we have our chocolate wacky cake. A different version that uses baking powder and no vinegar. No eggs, no milk, no butter. 100% dairy free. And there we have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you wish. I do appreciate that. That's it for today, and I'll see you next time. Chocolate mold and some candy melts. We're going to be using candy melts today, and what's really fun about candy melts is that there is no tempering involved. So let's get on with the really simple process. So here we have some candy melts. I've taken some from my jar and just poured them into a little bowl, and you can see how large these are. They're quite large. They're about 4 times the size of a chocolate chip. A lot of people call these chocolate. They're not actually chocolate. They are technically a candy because there is no cocoa in these at all. So what I've done here is I've taken these and I've melted them down in another bowl, and we are ready to go. What I have here is a very inexpensive chocolate mold / candy mold. This can be used for chocolates or with candy melts like we're going to use today. I'll show you the other side. And this thing here was about $3. So you can find these online, $3 or $4. And we have our melted candy melts. All I did was I melted them down in my microwave on the defrost mode. And now you can either go right up to the top or partially up. We're going to be making a beautiful cake later on. So what I'm going to do is just fill these a little bit, because I don't want them actually too thick. I'll do one right to the top. Okay, it's almost to the top. About there. And I'll do a few others. So for my cake, I want them pretty thin. So there's no tempering involved when you're using candy melts. Just pop these into the freezer for about 5 minutes and they will come back exactly like they were before you melted them down in the first place. Okay. Then I'll grab it and I'm just going to tap it. So what the tapping does, it takes any of the air bubbles and brings them to the surface, and it also makes them really nice and flat. If you have any little drips, just remove those. And that's perfect. So I'm going to pop these into the freezer for about 5 minutes and then I'll come back. Okay, these have just come out of my freezer. I'm going to turn them upside down and look at this. I just touched the counter and they're already falling out. Look at this. And there we have it. Perfect. So let's zoom in. Alright, I've just zoomed in to show you these a little closer up. And you can see how nice they are. And we're going to be using some of these on our cake a little later on. Don't those look great? So you see, here's a really thick one. This is too thick to put on the cake. This here is nice, a lot thinner. It's a lot easier to crunch. When you have things on top of a cake, you don't really want to have something that's really that thick. Something like this is really, really nice. So that's it for this really fast video. If you want to see the little shamrocks being used in another video, I have a shamrock cake and we're going to be using some of these on that cake. So you'll find the link for that cake right underneath this video in the description box. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time. YouTube channel. Today we're going to do something really, really fun. We're going to take some Oreo cookies, cream cheese, and dark chocolate, and we're going to turn it into something really, really fun. So let's get started. So into my food processor, I'm going to put in all of my Oreo cookies. Now the box that I'm using is 300 grams. Don't worry about the grams. I'm using 27 cookies. I'm going to start loading all of these into my food processor. So there we have it, 27 cookies. I'm gonna get my lid on. And now I'm just gonna start pulsing these until they turn into a nice crumb. Okay, that looks really good. And if you don't have a food processor, don't worry, you can take the cookies, put them into a large bag and use a rolling pin and just roll over them until they're all really nicely broken down. I'll just show you what this looks like. So it's all broken down into really, really fine pieces. So that's step number one. Now we're going to switch over to a mixing bowl. For our next step, I've placed my cream cheese into a large bowl. This is 250 grams of cream cheese, about 9 ounces. We're going to mix in our Oreo cookie crumbs, but before I do that, I want to just get a little bit of air into our cream cheese. I'm going to grab a mixer, and I'm just going to start breaking this down. Now my cream cheese has been sitting out for a couple of hours. It's at room temperature. Just makes it a little bit easier. So bring your cream cheese out earlier than you actually need to start the recipe. Okay, that's good. Then we're going to grab our Oreo cookie crumbs and just dump them all in. There were a few stuck in the bottom. I want to make sure I got them all out. So as you can see, so far this is a very, very simple recipe. I'm going to grab my mixer now. Speed number 1. I'm just going to start slowly incorporating this. So I don't suggest that you use anything faster than speed 1, otherwise it's going to fly out of your bowl. So just take your time and just mix until well combined. Okay, about a minute of mixing, and that looks good. I'm just going to increase my mixer here just to get everything off, and that's perfect. For our next step, I have a tray with a little bit of parchment paper. If you don't have parchment, you can use a little silicone mat like I do underneath. I just put that there just to show you. So you have a couple of options. I'm going to go with the parchment paper. I have a little cookie scoop or ice cream scoop, and now I'm just going to start scooping up my batter. And I really want to make this compressed. So get it right up against the side and give it a really good squeeze. You can even take your thumb and just push it in there. Make sure that it's really compact. And then right onto your little sheet, just like that. So really simple process. You can also make these into little balls if you wished, but this is a lot easier. Just get it right on there. Give it a little push. You just want to have these really condensed. And then right on. So I'm going to continue on doing these and I'll be back in a minute. And my last one. Just going to take the back of a spoon, and if you see any little pieces sticking out, just give them a little bit of a push. And if you don't want to use the back of a spoon, you can wash your hands really well with soap or put a little plastic glove on. I think that looks pretty good. So these have to chill for about 1 hour. I'm going to do that now, and then we're going to come back for our final step where we're going to dip them in dark chocolate. So this is about an hour later, and my little cookies, or Oreo truffles as I'm calling them today, have firmed up really well, and they are ready to be dipped. So what I have over here is a dark chocolate. This is 72% cocoa. And whenever you have a really high quality chocolate, you can tell just by how liquid it is. It's very, very liquidy. I'll just show you. And it's really nice. So now I'm going to coat these, and then we're going to get them out onto our parchment paper. So you don't want to leave them in too long. Let's give it a little bit of a tap. And then right onto the parchment paper. I'm just going to use some tweezers to just slide it off. And there we have it. Oh, that looks good. And you can also see that because these little bites are cold, the chocolate is setting up very, very quickly. It's already setting. And this chocolate is tempered. You don't have to use chocolate that is tempered. If you don't, you're just going to take these, put them back in the fridge, and your chocolate will set really nicely in the fridge as well. So we'll do another one. Just get it on my little fork. Right in. Get my tweezers ready to go. Give a little tap. Just gently slide it right off. There we have it. Perfect. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in for one so that you can see it a little closer up. I'll just get my chocolate into view so you can see it. I'll just get our little fork underneath. So I can get them in like that. Pull it out. And the one that I just did is already almost 100% solid as well. Just give it a little tap. Get my tweezers. And try not to move it as you drop it down because you don't want to have too much pooling around the edges. So that looks kind of nice like that, nice and clean. And look, just in the few seconds that I've talked, you can see how fast the chocolate is setting up. And that is because the cookie is cold, or our little Oreo truffle as I'm calling them today. Okay, let me zoom out. So I'm going to do another one. I just want to show you a little addition that you can add to the top. I'm going to give that a little tap. And this is optional. I'll just get that nicely dripped. And then right onto our parchment. And I have a little bit of sea salt here. So you have to work quickly. So you want to dip one and then get that sea salt on right away before your chocolate sets. There we go. Not too much. You don't want it too salty. But there we have a nice little addition to our Oreo truffle. So I've got quite a few more to do. I'm going to do those and then I'll come back and we're going to just cut into one, and I want to show you what they look like inside later on. So I've zoomed in quite a bit. Just to finish off my video, I want to cut into one and show you what these look like inside. But showing you doesn't even come close to what they taste like. You're going to take one bite of one of these and you're going to fall in love with them. And they're so easy to make, as you saw me do it today. That nice little crunch from that dark chocolate. And look at this. Let me turn this around. Look at that. Amazing. If you want to give these a little bit of a holiday twist, instead of putting the sea salt on top, you could crush candy canes and drizzle some of those on the top. Another really nice alteration to this recipe is to add a little bit of mint extract. It goes extremely well with this recipe. I'll just cut into... Of course, I'm going to have to try another one of these. So good. I don't know how to best describe these. You get that nice crunch from the dark chocolate on the outside, that little bit of sea salt, and then inside it's just like a dream. It's super creamy. You taste the Oreo and you taste that cream cheese, and both of those combined, it tastes like cheesecake. It is so good. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you wish. I really do appreciate that. As usual, I'm going to put pictures of these, the final product, on my Facebook page, facebook.com/bakelikeapro. Also on Twitter, and also on my Pinterest page, which is pinterest.com/bakelikeapro. So that's it for today's really fast and fun video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Oh. That is too amazing for words.